Alright, let's get started for questions 8 to 10. Describe the 4 segments of Selena's walk. Alright. So let's start off. This is the first segment. This is the second segment. This is the third segment. And this is the fourth segment. So anytime there's a change, we're just going to create a new segment. Now for the first segment, we know that Selena walked for 5 minutes, right? And we also know that he walked 300 meters, right? So let's begin. Let's start off with that. So wait, I spelled that wrong. Selena walked 300 meters in 5 minutes, right? So you can also write that as 300 per 5 minutes. So 300 meters per 5 minutes. Or if you want to simplify that, that's 600 or 60 meters per minute. So per minute, right? That's basically the first segment of Selena's walk. And then afterwards, for segment 2, this is kind of number 1. Number 2, she rests for 4 minutes, right? Or sorry, no, it's not 4 minutes. It's 3 minutes, right? Where is that? She rests for 3 minutes. And then for part 3, she walks from 8 minutes to 16 minutes, right? If you subtract that up, you would say she'd walk 8 minutes. So Selena walked and let's see how far she walked. So we know that she started from 300 and she went all the way to 900. So that would be 600. Selena walked 600 meters in 8 minutes, right? And if we were to write this as a formula, we would write it as 600 over 8, right? And if we were to figure that out, simplify it, we would know that she'd walk 75 meters per minute. So she actually increased in speed. And we should also state that her distance is 900. Her distance is 900, right? And for the first one, we could state her distance is 300. Right? And finally, for the final part, section number 4, she walked all the way back home. She walked from 900 to 0. So negative 900 meters. So like it's not actually, she didn't walk negative, not like you can't, there's no such thing as a negative meter, but basically since she's walking back, we can write that as negative, right? So she walked negative 900 meters and from 16 to 28. So that would be 14 minutes. 12 minutes if I'm not mistaken. So let's write that down. 900 meters in 12 min, and you can write that as negative 900 over 12 min, or that would be that would be 75. So sorry, negative 75 meters per minute. And we already know that her distance is 0 because she walked all the way back home. So that's question number 8. Let's move on to question number 9. The graph below shows the cost to print a document at the graphic shop. Line A represents the cost of printing a document in color. Line B represents the cost to print it with black and white only. So let's begin. Let's create our formula. We're gonna say that cost is total cost, or we can write cost for C, and that's total cost for color, and we can have cost B. We can have total cost for paper, or total cost for black and white only, for black ink, right? Let's begin. We know that cost for black, so CB, is equal to, it starts at 5. And we increase by, so for the black one, for every 1, 2, or sorry, as you can see over here, we're only counting every other square, right? So we're gonna count as 1, 2, 3, 4. So for every 4 pages, it costs $1, right? So we can write that as plus 1 over 4, or 1 over 4 x, or sorry, n, and we know that n is the number of pages. Or instead of saying 1 over 4, we can write 0.25 instead. So let's erase this. So 1 over $4 was the same thing as 0.25. So like, you can put 4 quarters in a dollar, right? It's the same thing. That's our formula for the black ink. Now for our colored paper, we once again start at 5 initial cost, and we add, and if you look over here, let me erase the original one. We go 1, 2, and then 1, right? So for every 2 pages, we pay $1. So that's 1 over 2n. Or we can write that as 50 cents. So 0.5 or 0.50, right? So now we have the formula for both of them, and we just have to find for 500 pages. So CB is equal to 0.25 times 500 plus 5, right? And then CB is gonna be, so 0.25 times 500 is gonna be 125, and then you plus 5, so 125 plus 5 And the answer to that is 130. Let's erase that. All right, 130. 130, right? And now for the color paper, we do 0.5 times 500 plus 5. So we know that half of 500 is 250 plus 5, and that's 255. So here's that. It's 255. 255. All right, there you go. So now we have the cost for both of them. 255 subtracted by 130 is equal to 120. So we know it will cost $120 more to use colored ink. There you go. So that's question number 9. Let's move on to question number 10. So question number 10 is actually pretty simple. Amina is going to take some children to the zoo or the museum. The following equation represents the total cost of each trip, where C is the total cost in dollars and N is the number of children. Right? Which group represents the total cost of the trip to the zoo? This is very simple. Because if you look at the trip to the zoo, we see that the slope, or kind of the rate of money, is kind of higher over here than it is over here. So it will cost $4 per person, right? But on the museum, but for the zoo, it will cost $5 per person. So that means that our slope is going to be higher in our graph for the zoo than it would be for the museum. So if we look at here, let's look at the graph with the bigger slope or the steeper slope, right? And that's obviously graph A. So by that logic, that means graph A should be the zoo, right? So which graph represents the total cost of the trip to the zoo? That's graph A. And give your reasoning. Because the slope is higher for both the formula and the graph. Because the slope is higher for the formula and the graph. So that's all for today's video, and make sure you watch the next one. Bye.